Namaskara. I'm Gopike, your host for today. On behalf of on this auspicious day, Bhagavan Sri Krishna was born to protect Dharma and to clean up the evil authorities. Blessings to you and your dear ones from Bhagavan Sri Krishna with loads of happiness, best of health, and great moments. On behalf of VHS Karnataka, very warm welcome to all the wonderful viewers for the 51st edition of Online Samvada, brought to you by VHS Karnataka. We had 50 amazing episodes of Samvada from VHS Karnataka until now, including last one, How India Emerged as a Keystone Country for Indo-Pacific Security by Professor M.D. Nalpatji. What a well-researched session was that. Bharatiya civilization is a very ancient civilization. We all know that. People lived across Bharatakanda peacefully to a large extent. In many cases, they lived closer to Mother Nature in forests without getting troubled by the others. They lived peacefully and happily until the invaders and colonizers entered into their lives. Colonizers named them as tribals, but would like our speaker to give more information on our original name of the word tribal. Today's topic is Bharatiya tribal community, role in freedom struggle. To know more about this, we have a special guest speaker, Shri Laxman Raj Singh Markam, Deputy Secretary to Honorable CM of MP. Shri Laxman Raj Singh is an Indian Naval Armament Service Officer of 2009 batch. He belongs to ground tribal community, we can say. He is well known for his thoughts on Janajati issues. He has also written many articles in Swadesh. His book, Vaishvika Shadyandra Ava Janajati Bharataka Astitva, has been published by Suchita Publications. He was awarded CNS Commendation by Chief of Naval Staff during 2016 for his dedication towards service. We are also joined by Sri Nikul Shahji, VHS Karnataka State President, and Sri Tejas. And without any further ado, now I request Sri Laxman Raj Singh ji to enlighten all of us how Janajati played a crucial role in freedom struggle. Who all were the freedom fighters then? Is there any difference between Janajati, Adivasi, and Vanavasi words? Please enlighten us. Floor is yours.
First of all, namaskaram to everybody. And today is occasion, very auspicious occasion. I'm with you on the Janmashtami. So first of all,
the audio is lower, I think.
Oh, 1 second. Can you hear me now? Hello. Otherwise, I can connect this also.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So as Gopalji was mentioning,
Gopi.
we are celebrating. Sorry. Gopiji was mentioning we are celebrating 75th year of our independence. So as we all know, as it was brought out in the beginning, that there was a huge role of tribal freedom fighters in the freedom struggle. But before we start, I just want to briefly mention about who are tribal or who are Janjatis. There are many names as he brought out. In Loka or in Lok, they are also called Adivasi. But constitutionally, they are accepted as scheduled tribe in English and scheduled Anusuchit Janajati in Hindi. Why we call them Janajati? Because in our Rig Veda, there is a concept of Panchajana. Means those people who live in Aranya. Those who are part of Aranyak Sanskriti, they are called Panchajana. So it is somewhat very similar name to the Panchajana, where Panchajana means the people from the same community, people who speaks the same language, and people who have almost the same identity as their own community. They have a geographical area. So historically, they were known by their region areas, but as per constitution, they have been identified as a scheduled tribe, or the proper name to be called them is Janajati. In the Lok, they are also called Adivasi. Adivasi does not mean what people have this say. Adivasi, used by Britishers, was a derogatory meaning. It was for those people who are still living in Paleolithic age. It means those who are following the lifestyle of Paleolithic age, but living in the state of Paleolithic, or we call it as Pura Prashan age, means people those who are not in any systematic agriculture farming or any other farming. So the Britishers use that word as Adivasis for them. Later on, we see there was a systematic degradation of tribal community, both economically also and religiously also. Because the white man's burden, they first identify and they called them as savage tribes. The first name they gave to other people were the savage tribes. It means they looked upon tribal as somebody that we can call them as savage in their own language. There are so many books they've written, and they called them as savage. So we can understand what was the view of Britishers for tribal community. But before I come on to my main topic, I just wanted to put light on some few thoughts. Had the Janjatis or our tribal brothers had the same status in our ancient ages? No. Apart from the constitutional identity, we have few other identity which have been established by our scriptures. So what are the scriptures, to start with, and what respect and social status was given to the Janjati by our scriptures? First of all, for instance, you go for Ramayana. Lord Rama crossed the river Ganga only with his Devi Sita and his brother Lakshmana. He was not having anybody else. But when he crossed and when he attacked Lanka, he was having a lakhs of what they call it vanar, people who were living in forest. They were called as vananar. So they were the friends of Lord Rama, and in our local language it is called Lord Rama came as king. Lord Rama came as king, but after conquering Ravana and living in Vanavasa for 14 years, he became the Lord, he became the Raja, he became the Devata. So, because he lived with these people, you might have heard the name of Shabri. He met with Shabri, and everybody knows that how affectionate he was towards the forest-dwelling communities. So it is well known that our scripture in Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, or Tulsi Ramayana, or Kambam Ramayana, if you refer to any Ramayana, the role, the valor, the strength, the might of forest people, the tribal, it was well accepted, well written in our scripture in Ramayana. Even you can say the Ravana feared these communities. He mentioned in some areas that if had it been only 3-4 people from Rama army, he could have battled them out. But there are lakhs of people with him. It is very difficult to defeat Lord Rama. Next, you come to Mahabharata. There was a world largest fight fought amongst Kauravas and Pandavas. It is written in Mahabharata. The name and places which we know today, the communities, they are written, and they are termed as Nishad Raj. They are termed as Rajas. They are termed as kings of their areas. They were known as Nag, Ang, Pulind, Plunder, Pulind, and there were many names which were identified as the kings of forest areas. But when we say to the people that our scriptures accepted these people as the warrior, as the brothers of Lord Rama and Lord Krishna and Pandavas. People don't accept them. They say these are not history. They are called as mythology. So we have another scriptures which were not written by us, but which were written by the foreigners. For instance, if you take the Megasthenes Indica. Megasthenes came along Alexander and he wrote about the tribal community. You know what he wrote in Indica? Is that Alexander, when he came entire all the way from Babylon to India, he was stopped at Hindu Kush by these forest and hill living communities, and he could not fight them with the same strength because they were so mighty people that he had to hatch and sort of agreement with them. Okay, you take the gifts but don't fight with us, you just let me pass through this hill areas. So it was the Alexander who just could not fight with these people because they were the first line of defense of our Akhand Bharata. If you look at the map of Akhand Bharata, you will find the entire border areas were filled with forest and hills, and all these Janajatis were Vanavasis were living in this area. So he summarized them as the first line of defense for our Indian motherland. And later on, what happened? After the instance of Islam came, the first people they were converted, like in Afghanistan and other people, they are still called as tribes, the Pashtun type tribes and other tribes. So 300 years they fought against these invaders. They stopped them at the borders, but because there was no systematic support for them, so in after 300 years of struggle, they got converted, and we all know what happened after that. So if we summarize them, they Chanakya also wrote about them in the Arthashastra. He called them as Artviks, and he told that Artviks has in their captivity a large area where you find your elephants, where you find your archers for your army, best archers for your army. So he has warned the king that if in case you have any trouble with these Janajati or Artviks, just don't consider them as your regular enemy. They are not your regular enemy. They are the bona fide people, and they just want to show their sovereignty. They are not here to fight with you. They are just here to show that they have the territorial integrity. They have a territorial identity. So they'll just come and show their strength, and they'll go back. And he also mentioned for Artvik that if in case you have any rebellion in your large state, don't send any regular army to that area, because that might happen that the king who is fighting against you, he may offer some kind of gold or ornament or valuable things, and he can subdue your army into their fold. So first send the Artvik army, because Artviks are very loyal to the people, very loyal to the land, and they will not change the side just by offering some kind of cash or good valuable things. They believe in their friendship with the king, so they'll fight till the end, and they will not leave the king friendship bonds. So these are the good things written in our scriptures, written in our so many ancient articles, where the tribals were mentioned as the sons of this our motherland, and they were treated equal. They were given the equal status of kings. Nishad Raja, Shabari, all these things were well mentioned. But later on, what happened? These invaders, either invaders from Muslim religion, either Mughals or Turks or whoever came, they degraded the status of tribal community by all wrong means. But still, it is written in many books that the Mughal kings or Turks or other things, they could never really penetrate into forest area. So the independence struggle, or you can say, actually started in British area, because before British, the tribal communities were actually independent. What the map they show that this Mughal Rhine is all over North India. It is all flop. It is all falsehood created by these so-called left-leaning writers. Their small kingdoms were plotted like big kingdoms, but literally or factually they were not so big. The tribal area considered at the time of Akbar was around 40 to 45% geographically in our entire India. So you can assume that these tribal areas were whole tribal areas, like around 40 to 45% of geographical mass of India. It was independent during even till Aurangzeb came in 1717. So what happened? So as we mentioned that this topic is basically we are describing about the freedom struggle during British era. Now why during British era it is important that tribals were the first people who fought with British, and their fight started much early in 1770. That was the Santhal rebellion, 1770. It was around Santhal rebellion 1770, and this rebellion started in Bengal presidency. Why in Bengal presidency first? Because at that time, 1770, they started a code called Permanent Settlement, or that was also called as Cornwallis Code. What was that code, and why tribal people objected that code? Because before that code in India, the land was never the individual property. It was the property of king, it was the property of the community. But what of crown, not property of people. So when the land became property of crown, anybody who was occupying that land became illegal, and anybody who was willing to pay the revenue was made owner of that land. So the traditionally the tribal people and other forest dwelling community or community which were engaged in agriculture, they had very cordial relationship with the tribal community, because there were certain rights called Katkari rights. What was the Katkari rights? This right says, when apart from the land, river fertile land, any land which will be converted from forest to agriculture use, certain amount of Katkari rights or certain amount of yield will be given to tribal people, so that the reduction in forest is not going to hamper them. There was very well established relation between the forest dwelling community and the communities which were living in Nagar and other areas. So Britishers distorted this relation. They distorted this relation of age-old relation or Sanatan relation of the Artvik community or Aranya community with the Nagar community or the people who are living in villages or Nagars. So when the land became property of crown, and anybody who was willing to pay the revenue was made owner of that land, they snatched away rights of tribal people. They snatched away rights of tribal people from jungles. They snatched the right of tribal people from Jal, Jungle, Jameen, and made them outsider in the jungles. So that was the first resistance which started because Bengal presidency, the first Bengal presidency initially started in Santhal Pargana, Chobis Santhal Pargana, and they uprooted the entire tribal community from that area. So after 1757, when Sirajuddaula lost the Battle of Palasi, within 10 to 15 years, the tribal people started revolt against Britishers. And you will surprise that in 1778, that the great warrior called Tilka Manjhi, who was also called as Pahadia, Jabra Pahadia or Tilka Manjhi, he attacked the SP of Robert Cleveland with his gulail, just a country-made weapon, and he killed him. He was having guns, bullets, and so many modern weapons. But one Tilka Manjhi killed the SP Robert Clifford with his own gulail. We call it local language we call it as a gulail, or some instrument which use rope and other things. So that was the first sign of tribal struggle. And when Britishers started finding Tilka Manjhi, around 5 to 10,000 Santals, they attacked British troops, and many British troops were killed. but they were having modern weapons. Those weapons, tribal could not fight. They all the strength, with their all their might, with their all their tir command, their arrows and bows and hasya and sickle, and whatever country made weapon they had, they fought against Britishers, knowing their result that with the advanced forces they will not be able to sustain their fight, but they fought for their dharma for their land, that dharma for their native land. So it was Tilka revolted against British army in today's Jharkhand or Bhagalpur or Ramgarh cantonment, and they fled away. When they came with full force, and they killed so many people. So there are so many instances, starting from 1778. I'll just name the few for to just refresh the memory of our people. The 1778 we started the revolt of Pahadia Sardars of Chota Nagpur against the British government. Then we had 1784 to 1785 Koli disturbances of Maharashtra. Why I am telling you all these things? Because this was not one geographical area or one area. The tribal movement against Britishers started in entire India. So it was not against, it was not in one area. It was all in entire India. You can map their struggle. So there is a very long list. I can just name few, like Tamar Revolt 1801 in Bihar, then 1803 Koa uprising in Rampa area of East Godavari agencies, Andhra Pradesh. Then we have 1807 and 1808 Chota Nagpur tribal revolt. Then we have 1809 to 1828 Bhil revolt in Gujarat. Then we have 1811 Bihar agrarian tribal revolt, 1818 Koli revolt, 1827 Mishmis revolt. They fought against explorer Wilcox. We have revolt of Khasis in Assam. Then we have revolt of U Tirot Singh, massacred the British general and their Indian sepoy in 1829. So U Tirot Singh. Then we have a very famous revolt of Munda revolt in Bihar. It started in 1820 and lasted till 1867. Then we have Kherwar rising 1832 to 1833. So there are so many, very prominent tribal freedom struggle, freedom fighter was our Birsa Munda. So he started his freedom struggle and 1885 1900. Within his lifespan of 25 years, he fought against strongest British army. But why Birsa Munda was important? Because he not only fought against British forces who were economically or socially occupying the area, he also fought against British religious forces. And he called them as Sahab Sahab Topi Ek. The cap of that religious had and the cap of that army person is same. The cap of a person who used to teach them religion or one book religion, and the cap of army person, they both are same. That is why he called as Sahab Sahab Topi Ek. And he gave the very famous nara as Abua Dishom Abua Raj, mean our country, our rule. And he also established the Swadharma se Swaraj tak. The fight of Swaraj will start from Swadharma. So he was the person, he was very prominent, and that till on Birsa Munda, after 75 years, our government has identified the role of tribal freedom struggle, and they made 15th November birth date of Janam Jayanti of till Birsa Munda as the National Janjati Gaurav Divas, as National Tribal Day or National Tribal Freedom Fighters Day, to identify that in our tribal freedom struggle, tribal contribution has been a big force, and it was wiped out from our history books. There is a very famous song called "De Di Hame Azadi Bina Khadak Bina Dhal." साबरमती के संत तूने कर दिया कमाल. You know how the narrative was built up, that the freedom struggle, the independence was brought by one person without the use of arrows and bows. So what about millions? What about around 10 lakh tribal freedom fighters which died as an account during freedom struggle from 1778 to 1947? Around 10 lakh freedom fighters from tribal community, from within many tribal communities. The unofficial account established that around 10 lakh people were killed by British forces brutally by use of chemical weapon, by use of biological weapon as chechak and other things, by use of famine as the akal as tool to kill people. There were many famine just of man-made cause. So they killed so many people, and the contribution of these many peoples were wiped out from our history books, just to establish that the independence was brought by only one family or one ideology, and others' contribution was not at all acceptable to them. That is why they call it as the struggle. Freedom struggle was only outcome of that non-violent movement of one particular ideology. So after 75 years, the entire tribal community is happy that we are identifying, we are accepting the role of tribal freedom fighter in our freedom struggle. And not only we are accepting the role of tribal freedom struggle, we are also acknowledging and re-establishing the glory, the valor, the strength, the might of these tribal people in the minds of our upcoming generation. I'm very happy to say that Honorable Prime Minister has launched the museum scheme for tribal freedom fighter, and in entire India, 10 very big tribal museums are being constructed, are being made in different part of our country, just to tell the people that how tribal freedom struggle was parcel of. We see the tribal freedom struggle. Many writers, they portray the tribal freedom struggle as, minute scale, just erupted because of some petty requirements. They try to downplay the nationalistic feeling of tribal people. They like to downplay the struggle against the imperialistic evangelist idea of white man's burden, who believe that tribal peoples are like those backward community which need the trinity's worship, or they need that god, glory and gold. So that god and glory and gold, so they look upon they looked tribal as the people who will very easily accept the god because they have no god. So that misnomer, that identity was painted systematically over a period of time. After 1857, the first thing what they did, they made one act called Criminal Tribe Act of 1871, that is called CTA 1871, where they identified most of the tribal community as criminals by birth, and the Britishers gave the right to agency area where they can take any tribal person and hang him without any judicial scrutiny or without any case against him. With this CTA, many lakhs of people were killed. They were brutally burnt alive. They were hanged, and the children were killed, ladies were killed, the people were kidnapped, and they were kept in some other areas. They were used against all brutal forces with one thing: you change your religion, and we will spare you. So, as you all know, in many parts of the country, many tribal peoples, the Britishers were successful converting them in their foreign religion, where you will see the dichotomy. You will see a very biggest dichotomy, that in their spiritual books, one book religion, they say that you cannot worship nature. It is written. You read 10 commandment, or you read any one book religion, it is very clearly prohibited that you cannot worship nature. whereas they say tribals can be converted into their religion. So this is the basic dichotomy, the paradox. We call it as a marichika. The communities which are basically nature worshipper, which are they basically Sanatan Dharma, where only nature worshipping is allowed, idol worshipping is allowed, whereas in their religion, idol worshipping, nature worshipping is totally prohibited. I don't know how they are allowing tribal community as converted in their fold. Principally, no tribal can be converted into any religion where nature worship is prohibited. So this is the biggest dichotomy, or this is the biggest flaws, because in our constitution, Article 341, which says that if a person from scheduled caste community, if he gets converted into any religion whose origin is outside India, they will lose the benefits for scheduled caste being given by the constitution. Whereas in Article 342, which says that tribal has no religion, therefore, even if they change their religion, they will still enjoy the status of tribal community. So it is a biggest dichotomy. How can we have two standards where one community, loses the right of whereas other community, they can still enjoy the rights of constitution, still if they are getting converted. So this is the dual benefit concept. We also call them as rice bag converts. Means in tribal area, you need not to give them so many things, just they are converting them with one rice bag and they are converting these people. So why this conversion is happening? Because our history book has erased the contribution of tribal community in getting the independence. They have erased the glorious years of tribal freedom struggle, and they have replaced, they have made tribal people as a separate identity where they can enjoy, conversion, and as well as they can still be using their tribal status. So these are few things in 75 years. I think it's high time. Then we have to think that how ecosystem, how a foreign based, we can call as a Sadyantra, is converting tribal people, wiping out their glorious past, wiping out their identity, killing their stories, their culture, their song, their rituals, their riti, their paddhati, their sanskaras, and giving them fruit of, false identity, and whereas they are portraying them as developed. So in 75 years, it is important to identify the role of tribal community, to identify their role in freedom struggle, identify their role in development of our India. As per report, they are the largest community which were displaced during development phase by first 50 years. They are the they represent the biggest portion in the people, those who are living below the poverty line. So for 75 contributed their life and everything, their life, their culture, they have displaced. So now it is right time to accept their contribution in the freedom struggle. It is right time to give them their due respect. It is right time to conserve their culture. It is right time to conserve their religion. It is right time to conserve their riti revaja, parampara. And it is very important at the last to conserve their roots in Sanatan Dharma, where they have the same origin of our Aranyak Sabhyata, Aranyak Sanskriti as the Sanatan Dharma. We have only two Sanskriti in our Indian subcontinent. One is called Nagar Sabhyata, other is called Aranyak Sabhyata. Mostly what we see as a religion today is basically Aranyak Sabhyata. We are more nature worshipper than any other religion in this world. So the tribal communities can only conserve their identity within the fold of Sanatan Dharma, within the fold of Aranyak Sanskriti, and any other religion or any other community or culture which prohibit the nature worshipping, which prohibit the worshipping of idols or which worship the Sanatan Dharma roots, they will not be able to survive within the fold of Christian or one book religion. So it is very important that we give them what they deserve as development, we give them what they deserve as education, we give them the right health, we give them the right development infrastructure, so that they can also feel empowered, they can also feel that they have contributed, their ancestor has have contributed same as others have contributed. It is very important because they are 10% of the population, but they live in 35% of geographical area. So we cannot identify them as in terms of only population. You see, 35% of geographical mass of our country is under the feet of tribal community. 90% of mineral reserves are under the feet of tribal community. 80% of forest reserve is under the tribal community. If tribal community will lose their culture, if tribal community will lose their identity, we will lose our this very important area. And we should not forget that there are many foreign hands which are working in tandem with so-called multinational company, where they want to teach tribal people as whatever is foreign is good for them, whether it's religion or development or anything. So it's high time after 75 years we accept the role and the contribution of tribal community, and we call them as same. We all, whether it's Gramvasi, Vanavasi or Shahrwasi, Nagarvasi, or all the communities, they have the same status as brothers of Lord Rama. They are the same status and brothers of Pandavas. So there has been new education system of Macaulay which have taught us seeing this community as somehow backward community. But if you see their lifestyle, they are living as the lifestyle as listed out in our Sanatan Dharma. So I would just summarize that we have a long list of tribal freedom fighters. We can name them. We have whether it's Alluri Sitaram Raju, or we have Kumram Bhim, we have Tilaka Manjhi, we have Raja Shankar Shah, Raghunath Shah, we have Babu Rao Shedmake, we have so many. I mean, we can name so many names, but their contribution has to rewritten in our books. We have to bring the glorious past of tribal community into the mainstream people, those who lives in cities. They should know the how much contribution tribal communities has they have done during freedom struggle. So I think this is my beginning. If you have any questions, we can take the questions, and I can we can answer any question if you have. I hope this is briefly I was able to explain tribal freedom struggle.
Thank you, Laxman Raj Singh ji. I think 1 second. Tejas, can you bring me up forward? Tejas? I'll ask the question like that itself. Let him come, Tejas. Regarding, you mentioned about Article 341. And the question I have at this point is, many people might be misusing Article 341 at this point, like converting to Abrahamic religions. And can we file a case against them? If they are like, how do you know they're misused it, first of all? How do you identify they're converted first? And how to go about it?
See, there was a very big commission called Niyogi Commission in Madhya Pradesh. You might have heard about Niyogi Commission. So, in the Niyogi was the Justice of High Court, and he brought it out that the conversion in India for scheduled caste is well thought conversion. They know that if they bring out on paper their conversion, they'll lose the. So they have very set toolkit for the conversion of scheduled caste. So in southern India, they are calling as Dalit Christians. So when you say Dalit Christians, you cannot call them as Dalits, because once you become Christians, you cannot be called as Dalit. Because as per Article 341, Christianity does not have caste system. So a person converting into Christianity, he loses his caste. But very well they have quoted out, and you will be surprised. Then it is told in their institutions, use the name of Hindu gods. You'll find out most of the people, they are using the name of Balakrishna, Krishnamurti, Rama, Satyanarayana, because their name will be like our Hindu name, but on Sunday if you call them, they will be somewhere busy doing their prayers. Even I have served 13 years in southern India. I was surprised. So they know that on paper they will never accept that they have converted. That is why they are called as crypto Christians. Crypto means on numerically we will never came to know that how many people have actually converted, but these people on ground have been converted. So they are dual edged sword. The actual figure of our Hindu community is blotted, but if you go in southern India, I mean, very large number of people have converted. One recent fraud came up in Andhra Pradesh where they started giving, remuneration honorarium to the people from Dalit community. And when they started receiving, somebody questioned that how can a Dalit pastor receive payment from the government and still enjoy the status of scheduled caste? Then say suddenly, they realize that they made a mistake. So very, very intelligently, they are becoming crypto Christians, that above the surface they will mark them as Hindu or any other caste or Buddhi, but internally they will get converted. How to stop it? Your next question. We have two things. What are the benefits are being given to these people? So first, benefit of reservation. So how can we stop benefit of reservation? The simple thing is that whenever somebody is issuing caste certificate, he should verify that a person who is asking for caste certificate, whatever religion he is writing, actual in the Panchnama, we call it as Panchnama or site survey, whether that person actually practiced that religion or not. It has to be verified few people, that whether he is actually worshipping that religion or he is worshipping that Abrahamic religion. If he finds out that he is worshipping that religion, on first instant that caste certificate should not be issued. But you know what happens in the lower revenue departments? It's very easy to get things done with the help of these things, and they have very well established ecosystem. Number one. Number two, even if somebody gets recruited, after recruitment also in the offices or other, the head of the organization person, he can identify and he can stop these people from enjoying those communities benefits. But it's a very difficult task, because they know that overtly and covertly they have to become a crypto Christian and crypto Hindu. So they use their mask beautifully, and somehow they are destroying their culture. Recently a document came up where they are saying that government of India may use, or state government may use, a tool to establish their allegiance to another religion with the use of the data being created by this, because these communities are mentioning their name, their Aadhaar card. We have so many number of people, we have so many number of members in our so-called ministry. Every Sunday we have 3,000 people, 4,000. So government should use this data, that how people, whoever is coming to your this thing, if he is enjoying that scheduled caste benefit, he should be his scheduled caste status should be withdrawn. But they are so mighty. There is a line in that one movie called Kashmir, that सत्ता हमारी है लेकिन सिस्टम उनका है. So they have system with them. Even 3-4 major judgment of high courts where they said if a person get converted and you snatched away his rights, he just have to come back and say, I have came back, and there should be 10 to 15 people who will verify, yes, he came back, and he can still get his rights. So they have a very easy way to going away, coming back, again becoming Hindu, not becoming Hindu. So these all things are very well established. And there is an ecosystem. So many crores of rupees are being given as school fees, scholarship for scheduled caste people. That every school fee scholarship is going to the so-called missionary schools. So they have a very big ecosystem. One my friend told me, he works with these people. He said, once a person is educated in a convent school, he is converted. He may not be hanging cross on his this thing, but if they have a so systematic way that even the Hindu peoples who are getting education in convent people, they are exactly, virtually they have got converted. They may not accept them as converted, but they have converted. This is what they call. So I used to say in my forums, in a school, if Gayatri Mantra is not taught, in a school, if Gita is not taught, please don't send your Hindus should not send their children to these schools where Gayatri Mantra or Om Namos chants are not there. So recently, I think in Bangalore or somewhere this happened, that they
Yes.
put fine on Rakhi or Tilak or anything. So these things are there. Similarly, but in Article 352, there is a big dichotomy, because at the Constitutional Assembly, there was 3-4 very big pastors who were part of Constituent Assembly. So they dig down their deep heels. One of the main important person was Jaipal Singh Munda. He was the converted person. He was married to a converted lady. He was member of that community, and he, along with John Mathai and along with pastor from Northeast, these 3-4 people rushed to Nehru and told that if you will put the same clause as 342, we will not support you. Entire Northeast will not support you. And you see in Northeast till 64, the number of people who were converted, it was below 35 to 40%. The entire conversion in Northeast started after independence. They were given the free hand to convert these people by the person who gave this idea was Warrior Alvin. He was very good friend of Mr. Nehru, and he was given the Padma Awards. He was called as brother of Mr. Nehru, but he was the person who instrumented the Park theory, that how to convert tribal into Christianity. So these things are there. I think recently social organization have started Article 342 movement, where they are demanding that anybody who get converted to Christianity and stop practicing tribal culture, stop practicing nature worshipping, their tribal status, at least their community benefits, not as their fundamental rights, community benefit like political rights. What political rights as a reserve constituency, political rights they are getting, they should be withdrawn. So these people will realize that they should come back to the original fold of Sanatan Dharma. And if there will be a pressure, they will come back, because tribal has the tendency to come back in bulk. Like 5 lakh people came back in Nagpur when from Arya Samaj, one saint came to them, went to them and told them, you see, you were converted during Muslim era, now you come back. So entire 5 to 6 lakh people came back. Recently, day before yesterday, there was a death anniversary of Swami Laxmananda from Odisha. He was brutally killed for bringing back tribal community in Kandhaman or Odisha. He was killed brutally because he was telling them the truth, and he was bringing back tribal community in the Sanatana Dharma fold. So, they have all tricks in their pockets. They have good ecological system support. They have a good system support. And they use all the system to convert our poor tribal community people. So this is what I can say.
Continue. Thanks for
Yeah,
thanks
sorry.
for answering. The continue for the same question. You already mentioned about 342 as well. I mean, meant for the tribal communities. I mean, who decided? I mean, the tribal communities are non-dharmic. I mean, you should have somebody could have taken. They are part of Sanatanis, but who decided?
During Constituent Assembly debate, it is not. If you see 2.31% of total Christians, the biggest number of people, if you break up the community, tribal Christian community population, tribal has the maximum number of Christian converted known, whether it's Northeast or Jharkhand or other places. So the whatever may happen, Article 341 is there, Article 342 is there, but consecutively it is the role of state government. So now, in many parts, the role of state government is in question, like in Andhra Pradesh or in Telangana, where conversion is somehow system oriented. They, or in Jharkhand, they have started demanding a separate religious code because they know that if somehow government of India like Madhya Pradesh or Uttarakhand have made religious freedom act, where a person, if anybody is caught converting tribals, will be punished with this religious tribal freedom act. So they have devised new ways to convert. What they have done, they have started demanding new religious code, and they are calling it as Adivasi code, so that they will first of all they will reduce the number of Sanatan Dharmi. Also, they need not to portray them as Christians. So they will have a blanket. They will have a tool to hide their real identity, and they will be called as they will be called as a tribal religion. So recently, Registrar General of India answered that there are more than 750 tribal community. How can you give one religious code to 750 tribal community? Number one. And second, like Lingayata have started demanding separate religious code. So everything is like same, divide Hindu form is same. They just wanted to bring one very good thesis, very well researched thesis was written, somebody, one pastor, that in 225 they wants to bring down the Hindu population below 50%. How? So break away scheduled caste, break away scheduled tribe, break away major fraction of OBC from the Hindu fold. That is why they call it as Hindu religion. And once it is below 50%, they know how to, politically use this thing. Recently, one document given by PFI, Vision 2047, you will be surprised that they have brought it out how to use scheduled caste and scheduled tribe as a front for agitation, use Ambedkar as agitation, use Tiranga for agitation, but break India. Because if you see the number, 10% scheduled tribe, 16% scheduled caste, it becomes 26%. And if you count OBCs, what their plan is there, it is coming around 35 to 36%. So this is their idea to break Hindu Dharma, break Sanatan Dharma into pieces, give new identity. I'll just summarize with one thing because we have to summarize how 9th of August, World Declaration that a tribal community can opt for citizenship of any other country within India. They can opt for any other religion within our India. In that article, it is written, and people are celebrating that day, 9th August, as Adivasi Day. One charter which says that citizen of India can opt for citizenship of any country which they want, still be living within India. They call it as right to self-determination, right to self-acknowledgement, and still people are celebrating their nefarious, their agenda. So what thousand cuts theory is not, has now is coming in new avatara, because they cannot win the conventional battles with us. That is why they have started back channel entry. divide India, divide Hindu, divide Hindustan, divide Sanatan Dharma, increase their number, and make the government like what happened in many states, make them as a political tool and get the satta and start. You will be surprised that when President of US came to meet our Prime Minister, he told that government of India should rethink its stand on Dalit Christians' identity for reservation. You know how powerful they are. That President of United States is requesting our Prime Minister that you should start giving, and he brought it out that there are around 11% of the population they are Dalit Christians. So
Is that
11%
Trump?
population. No, before
Is that
that.
Mr. Trump?
No, it
Before
was
that, okay.
Barack Obama. It was Barack Obama.
26. Okay.
So this is how they have ecosystem there, well-funded, well-oiled ecosystem.
Tejas, go ahead, Tejas.
No, I just had a quick question to Lakshmanji that see, majority what I have seen is like the tribal still majority to their development is there. They are still illiterate. Like if you see the maximum amount of population which they have, and because and also they lack very common things of like health or proper medication, and they still live in poverty. Like for example, I will take one village, Talasri, which is near financial capital Mumbai. It is just not even 25 kilometers from Mumbai, but means I have personally gone there. There are still tribal staying there, so they are, why they are prone to this conversions and all, because they are still not literate enough to understand what is right and what is wrong. So what do you think strategy should the government undertake? Because Mumbai being a financial capital, still a village near that is still a lot of tribal population with illiteracy is still there.
I think recent in last 6 to 7 years, that government has identified the gap, and you know what has been happening in last almost 50 years. There was one government, and if you see the consecutive 5 year development plan, the outgo for their fund, that central assistance or other assistance, it was when one prime minister told that when I send 1 rupee, only 15 paisa reaches to the last man. And if you say for tribal community, it was for a general statement. Only 1 paisa was reaching to the tribal community. 1 paisa, if you say. So 99 paisa was siphoning away in between. So what this Modi government did, they've started direct benefit transfer. Means direct, if there is any subsidy, he need not to run to the person or anybody. He will directly go to his account. That Jandan account, they were financial inclusion was not there. Almost majority of tribal people, they were not having access to the banks. So because they were not having access to the banks, this so-called ecosystem that was using their name and siphoning away entire benefits which were giving in the form of subsidies. So what Modi government did, first of all, they started plugging the holes. They started plugging the holes where that benefits which were given by the governments were not reaching the last man. So still we are far behind, but I think we are moving ahead in the right direction. That if there is 1 paisa is being sent, that 1 paisa should reach to the last man. That is why they have started public finance management system. Almost majority of the benefits are going to the last man. The second part which you said, why they are not getting education, there was one commission, or there was consecutive commission, or there was one person called BD Sharma. He brought it out this thing. In tribal areas, first thing, there was no infrastructure, there was no roads, there were no electricity. How can you expect somebody, a good teacher, going there living with their kids in the tribal area? So physically, education was not reaching to those areas. Primary education was okay, where their homegrown teacher was teaching them how to read and write, but quality education was not reaching. What this IT did now, that every village panchayat is connected through internet. now almost many tribal people are having mobile on their hands. So I think we are going to crack this problem of education with the people. This government have started every tribal block residential school called as Eklavya school, that residential boarding school. These residential boarding schools are located in the remotest area. So now Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Eklavya School, that IT policy, and Van Dhan Yojana, that is also very important yojana. That Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Sadak Yojana, all these schemes are giving them psychological accessibility. You know, we had 50 years physical accessibility, means roads were there, everything were there, but these people were not told that you have to walk on this path. Now gradually within last 5 to 6 years, that psychological accessibility is being started. And what can be the best example that the president of India is from that community? That Mahamahim Draupadi Murmu is from a village. She studied in a village. She studied in a remotest area. She represents the tribal, poorest of poor tribal communities. That if you have dedication, if you have a vision, if you have a goal in your life, even you can become president of government of India from a very backward, remote tribal village. And people are very surprised. She is a staunch Sanatan Dharmi. When she took the name of Jagannatha, many people, that narrative, I was very anguished by many people. They believe that a converted tribe is a developed tribe. She represent a non-converted tribe can also be educated. A non-converted tribe or a tribe who is following a Sanatan Dharma can also reach to the highest office of this country. So that is the message of 75th year, that we have our president, we have head of the state. She belongs to a very remotest tribal community, a poor tribal village. Girls can rise up to the rank of president of India. Then any other person living in those remote area can reach up to any place.
Thanks, Lakshman.
Thank you, Ji. Nikunji
Yeah,
is gone.
Gopalji.
Any more questions? Okay.
Nothing from my end.
Thank you a
Gopalji.
lot for your. Nikunji, do you have any question?
No. Carry on. No, I have no question.
Okay. And it's very unfortunate how the leftist and Islamic ecosystem completely destroyed the true history of Bharat with distorted history. It's very unfortunate they have done it. And with this age, like the social media coming in, a lot of information is coming out at this point, and many are getting educated, but still long way to go. And on behalf of VHS Karnataka, I thank Shri Laxman Raj Singh ji for accepting our request and enlightening all of us on Janjati role in freedom struggle on this Samvada. Thank you, Shri Laxman Raj Singh ji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you, Nikunji. Thank you, Nikunji. Thank you, Tejas ji. And thank you, our Ishwaraya ji and Gadig Rakesh, who helped us from behind. And last but not least, thank you all the wonderful viewers for making this Samvada a success. Please stay safe. And please do visit and register at vhsindia.org for further amazing online sessions and from VHS Karnataka Samvada. Thank you all. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri.
Jai Shri Krishna.